Oh, hello, welcome back to the shed. It's cold. It's been snowing today, so it's not a day to do any scenery or alterations to the track because everything's too cold, things are going to contract or expand. It's just not a good time to do it. So I thought I'd start talking a little bit about signals. And several people have commented that I haven't got any signals on my railway. And given that I'm a signal engineer, having worked in the railway industry for 40 odd years in signalling, it's a bit of a surprise perhaps that I haven't got any signals on. So why not? Well, partly it's cost. The signals you can buy are brilliant pieces of manufacturing, but they are expensive. And also, if I look at a lot of other layouts on YouTube and the like, I do notice that people are not perhaps applying the signals in the way that they should be on a big railway, and that means that it doesn't look right to me and it grates. So I thought what I'd do is have a look at the middle station here and just talk about where signals would be if I was signalling it as a signal engineer. So if we make a start by having a look at this end of the station, where would I put signals? Well, it's a good question actually, because with this set of points right on the end of the platform, normally I would be looking at putting a signal somewhere just around about there. Just check you can see that. Yep. For coming out of the platform, but because I've got the set of points here, I probably need to put another signal to protect those points. That could be just a ground signal preset, with that being the main signal to go off to the terminus. Obviously coming out of the head shunt I need a signal, put them on the track, that's the easiest. Coming from the run round road, so all of a sudden down here I've probably got 1, 2, 3, 4 shunt signals and one main running signal, and that's just for this little end of the thing. So we'll now go to the other end and have a look at what might need to be there. So I might run out of bottles of paint at this end, but what am I going to need? Well, I'm certainly going to need one for coming out of the middle roads, which will lead me either out onto the line around the scenic section or into the sidings, and similarly one coming around out of the cattle dock here and into the sidings. And because all the points are power operated, each of the sidings is going to need a signal, and then I'm going to need something for coming round and coming into the station or into the run round road, so that's one there, and obviously I'm going to need one for leaving the platform. So main signals here, the one coming out of here will be probably a main signal with a subsidiary on it, main signal there, again with a subsidiary, and some shunt signals. So 1, 2, 3, 4 shunt signals, one main signal and one main plus subs. So that's what, 7? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 signals at this end, about 6 at the other end. So a lot of signals just to signal this realistically, or what would make me feel comfortable. So that's why I haven't done signals. However, I am sort of thinking and toying that perhaps I do need to at least have a few signals on the layout, and wire those in just to sort of give it a bit of character. I might start with some of the signals which have got a sensor so that they change as the train goes past back to red, and then after time clear back up, and that might work for some of the sort of scenic section and areas like that. But the areas around the station where the signal would reflect the point position is a little bit more complicated and probably quite a lot more expensive. So that's what I'm thinking about. And now I think we'll go and have a look at a diagram, and we can just talk about what each of the signals would be, and we can also talk about how I could solve the problem by adopting cab signalling. So the last 10 years of my career I've been working on ETCS, the European Train Control System, or cab signalling, used on the Cambrian, Thameslink, Heathrow branch, and going on to the East Coast now. And of course, that puts everything in the cab. But unfortunately, the trains I've got, the era I've modelling is before the only locos that could have ETCS on them would be the Class 37. There are a couple of Class 37s fitted for the Cambrian route and some 97s which were 37 conversions. So I can't really use this exclusive ETCS, but if you do want to learn some more, I'll put a link to some ETCS talks that I've done which explain how ETCS works. So let's go and have a look at what the signals would look like if I was actually going to do it on the railway.
So as a signal engineer for many years, I worked on signaling layouts. Okay, I know the era is more recent than my model, which is probably sort of 50s, 60s, perhaps 70s. But the basic principles are the same. So what I've done is just put together a little PowerPoint to illustrate how I would signal just the middle station, just to get an idea of what would be involved and how much it might cost. So if I just share that. So what we have is the middle station, and the middle station has a platform, and off it we have a goods yard. And this drawing was drawn in AnyRail and then captured to PDF, so it's a little bit grainy, sorry about that, but hopefully it gives you the track layout. So let's have a think about what signals would be required on a layout like this. So we're going to start with a train going from the left across the top, through the platform and out to the right-hand side. And obviously we're going to need a signal protecting the junction at the right-hand end of the platform. That one there, you can hopefully see there is a little signal symbol shown, and that signal is going to control the departures and protect the junction coming out of the yard. So it's going to need to have a red aspect. Now I'm going to work with colour light signals because I'm more familiar with those, and semaphore signals would be different in their arrangement, and there might be some other rules. I think also because this signal is going to manage trains going round and into the scenic area, it will also need to warn if the next signal is red, so it needs to have a yellow aspect. If the signals are far enough apart, then you could have a distance signal for the next stop signal. But I think given the distances on my layout, it would probably be a 3-aspect signal and would also include a green aspect to indicate the next section is clear and the next signal is at yellow or better. So we've got a 3-aspect signal, and that would be placed at the end of the platform, protecting the junction. Doesn't need any route indicators, should work. And looking at the layout, there's probably a couple more signals the same at the left-hand end of the platforms in the opposite direction. That could be a simple plain signal. And similarly, round the corner, coming from the terminus, there could be another signal which protects entry into the platform and has a yellow aspect and a green aspect reflecting what the state of the first signal we talked about is. So there we go. And luckily there are models of those available, 3-aspect signals, which one can buy, and I could install those if I wished. And of course, I'd have to work out how to control them. So let's move on to think about what other signals we might need. Well, we've got a signal coming from the scenic section around the inside curve, and that protects the junction and controls access into the yard. So like the other signals, it's going to be a main running signal. It's going to have a red, yellow and green aspect. But because it controls entry into the yard, we also need to decide what to provide for that. Now, we could provide a route indicator, and that's one option. might actually be a good one, but I've actually gone for providing a subsidiary signal, a shunting signal underneath the main signal. As we go through and we look at the various other signals, actually one might come back and change this one to have a theatre type route indicator, or even a position like junction indicator to come into the yard. But it needs to have something to differentiate between going through the platform and into the yard roads. And that particular form of signal could also be used at either end of the arrival departure road in the yard to control movements out onto the main lines. To the left, it would go out and around the inner curve. To the right, it would go out through the double slip to the outer curve. But both of those signals also have routes that remain within the shunting area, going into the head shunt at the left-hand end or into the sidings at the right. So again, a three-aspect signal with a subsidiary below it would be appropriate. And because the left hand of those is now a three-aspect signal, I think I could actually put a junction indicator of some sort on the one we talked about before. Now, talking about shunting, we need some signals to control that, and either ends of the run round just needs to be a simple shunt signal. It can be a red, white, or a two reds. I can choose which of the various eras one wanted to use. Probably actually would use a red, white rather than the two reds, but we have that choice. And then we also need some shunt signals to control movements from the head shunt and from the sidings. And these ones have got different routes, and those routes are different enough that we probably need to have a route indicator. So there's quite a few signals where if one was signaling it today or in the last 15, 20 years, one would almost invariably provide a route indicator. Earlier, further back, one might not, although route indicators were quite common from probably 40 odd years ago, and even older than that. So there we go. We need some shunt signals, and ideally those ones need to have some route indicators. And if we total up, I've got 6 three-aspect signals, 3 of which have got shunt signals associated with them, or 2 with shunt signal and 1 with a route indicator, but that gives an idea, and 6 shunt signals, 4 of which would have route indicators. Now, I'm not advertising absolute aspects, or I'm sure there are other suppliers. I haven't just picked them as the first one I found. And as a guide to cost, to provide those signals would be over £500. So it's not a small sum of money. They don't actually appear to make a shunt signal with a route indicator, so that makes them a little bit simpler and less controls, but it would still be a lot of money in order to signal the layout with colour light signals to a standard that I would be happy with if I was signaling it. And then I still have to work out how I'm going to control it and all the rest of it. So that's probably one of the reasons I haven't actually gone for providing signaling on my layout. So I do hope you found that interesting, a little diversion as to why I haven't done signaling. Sort of hanker after perhaps having a couple of signals, but then I go, will I like it, or will I feel frustrated that there aren't all signals? Of course, I could go for semaphore, but they would probably be even more expensive and more complicated to work. And I think, as most of you will know, if you've been building model railways, when you think about things after you've done the initial work and go to retrofit things, it's much harder. I think if you're going to do these things, you've actually got to design them into the system. And I think if I was going to do it, I would want to use block control. So I'd need to alter quite a bit of the wiring of the feeds to the track so that I could have train detection. I'd then be looking at going to one of the control programs and probably actually then would find that I haven't actually got the track sectioning correct to use that. So it's probably a lesson learnt. Know where you're going to end up with, and make sure you provide all the things on the way. I didn't, but I'm quite happy with my railway. Just wish the trains would go around without derailing, which seems to be the current problem. But I think that's just down to the very cold weather and the fact that everything is moving in the cold. And once everything warms up a bit, hopefully things will return to normal. So I hope you enjoyed this video and look forward to talking to you next time.